Hey, welcome everyone to another edition of On the Trail in Search of Living Legends. This is going to be season 7, episode 11. The date is 5/4/25.
Yeah, my man.
And we have an amazing guest for you tonight that we've wanted on for a long, long time. And Nick, I'm going to let you introduce the gentleman.
Well, our guest goes by the name of Tex. That's all we need because in the cryptozoology community, that's what he's known as. Texas is from Central Texas, as you may not may well assume. And Tex, welcome to the show, bro. I mean, it's so glad to have you on with us.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Of course, m- I, Jeremy, I've known about you for years. Okay,
Yes, yes. Yep.
Jay, and I've known Nick personally for several years now. I guess, Nick,
Yeah.
Several, yeah.
golly,
Yep.
time flies. I guess.
Time flies,
Um,
that's for sure.
Unbelievable,
yeah,
huh?
Nick's actually the one that convinced me to start carrying a pistol in the field.
Ah,
I mean, Tex
I
goes
was
out
I was
there.
going out by myself carrying nothing but a
Yeah,
Bowie knife.
oh boy.
he does field investigation the old-fashioned way, by himself, anytime he wants,
Yeah.
with the slingshot. That's about it.
Mhm.
Tex, how long ago was it that you just started in cryptozoology of any sort?
You know, well, I had an encounter, of course we talked about it in, Dogman encounter when I was 16
Yeah.
but I didn't I told my family, but I really didn't tell anybody else. And um then, you fast forward years and years and years till about 2000, oh, what was it? 2014, 15, something like that.
Hmm.
And I was at work, and
Yeah.
I had some downtime, and I'm flipping through YouTube, and I start seeing this stuff called Dogman. I'm like, what is this? And when I started listening to it, I'm like, this is the same stuff. This is the same thing that I saw when I was young.
Mm.
And I reached out to Danielle Stedman with Dogman Diaries and got on her show and shared my encounter. That was the first time. That was 8 years ago,
Yeah.
Mm.
going on 9. So, and then I started kind of working with her, and then um, I hooked up with this old boy that was researching in Oklahoma, and he said, "You got to come up here." And I said, "Yeah, I'll come up and take a walk in the woods." I didn't have no expectations, I'm just,
Yeah.
getting out, and we pulled up at 8:30 in the morning in my truck on the edge of a hayfield, and there was a thin tree line that separated this hayfield and a wheat field. And I get out of the truck, he gets out of the truck, and I'm standing there trying to take in I'd never been here before, so I'm kind of taking in the lay of the lands because I don't want to get down there and the bottoms get lost, right? We're down in the Red River bottoms.
Right.
And I'm looking through this tree line, he's getting his cameras or whatever together. And I'm just looking out in this wheat field, just kind of looking around, and this critter stands up in the middle of this wheat field, looks like he's looks around like he's fixing to cross the street, and then takes off running down into the river bottoms. And I could see him from about the waist up till he hit the fire break, and then I caught him a couple of steps from head to toe. And we measured the wheat. The wheat was about 4 feet high. So that made this critter about 8 feet in height.
So he
Wow.
was bipedal on two
It
legs.
was bipedal, yeah.
And
And that was my
where
first Bigfoot sighting.
that was a Bigfoot. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and I was hooked after that, and kind of here I am.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
was during the daytime in broad daylight.
Mm-hmm.
You
Eight
don't even
thirty
have
in the
to go out
morning.
at night to go looking for him.
Tex, how old were you when you had your Dogman encounter?
16.
16. You mind telling us a
Yeah,
little bit about that?
not at all. I was raised up out in the country, and I was always gallivanting around by myself. I'd go out hunting and fishing and camping and whatever.
Mm.
And if I took anything, it was my 410 and a dog. you know.
Right. Right.
Um, but I'd been out hunting, and I had a couple of rabbits hanging off my belt, and I was walking home, and the sun was, it had went down. It was in the process of going down, and I was walking up a white gravel road that bordered our place, and I was just about to cross our fence and make a beeline across our pasture and go to the house, you know. And this thing come out of the brush on my left hand side, ran across the road in front of me, and you got like I said, I'm on foot, okay, and this thing was maybe 25, 30 feet away from me when
Wow.
it came out, and it was on two legs, and it ran across the road in front of me, and the image that I have frozen in my head is when it's like in mid stride, it turned its head and it kind of growled at me, snarled at me, and then
Whoa.
it dove over our 5 strand barbed wire fence, went down to all fours, very smooth transition. I didn't hear any of
Hmm.
the popping or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so it just went down on all fours in the tall grass, what we call love grass out here. It's about,
Hmm.
gets about 3.5 feet tall. And I saw the grass move for a little bit, and then he was gone. Um,
So he
so,
started out on 2 feet and went down to 4,
hmm
just took off.
yeah.
Whoa.
And
Wow.
he obviously had no interest in me. I don't know if I interrupted a nap or I don't know,
Right.
or if maybe he was out for a jog. I don't know. And he just ran across the path. I
Something.
don't know.
Yeah.
From what I've found out over the years, information that I've gotten myself and from other people, most likely he was just walking around because, in your case, because
Yeah.
if it was after a kill, I
Right.
think he would have had a little problem there because he would have probably thought, oh, he's trying to take it from me.
Yeah.
Food. Probably was out and about looking.
Which
Um,
was odd because, you know, I had 2 rabbits hanging off my belt,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hindsight, looking back on it, this is like, it was so weird because, the thing was, I thought it was about 6.5 feet tall back then for years. And then I was at work and I was talking to a buddy of mine. He had had a Bigfoot encounter in Georgia. And me and him were talking about, our encounters. And I was telling him about my Dogman encounter. He goes, "Well, Tex, how tall was this thing?" And I said, "I don't know. It wasn't no." And we was walking together. I said, "It wasn't no taller than doors right there for sure." He
hmm.
put his hand. This big guy. He put his hand on my chest, and he stops me. He looks at me. He goes, "Those are 8 foot doors."
What?
Ooh.
So
Big
evidently,
one.
this thing was a little over 7 feet tall.
Yeah,
So uh,
that's generally what I find. 7.5 feet.
Yeah.
Um, that's what generally Dogman is out there, and a lot of people that I've interviewed and have seen it on bipedal and walk away bipedal or run
yeah,
bipedal. I mean,
Yeah.
phenomenal how fast they can go. It's just.
No, it's unreal. It's same with the Sasquatch.
Have
People
you
have
had
no
any,
idea how fast they run.
Tex? Have you had any Dogman encounters since?
you know, um, not up until we're in the middle of a private investigation that you're aware of, and we may have had one walk into our camp, um, and I may have caught one on film.
Mm.
So when I was out again walking around by myself, so
Um,
um, um, it's it's very possible. I can't say for sure that's what this thing was, but I know what it looked like. You know,
Right.
it was a nighttime encounter. I could all I could with my flashlight and my camera, and I could make out more with the naked eye than I could with the camera.
Right.
And that's usually how it goes. But um, it looked like it had its back to me, and I could see its ears.
Mm.
Right. Um, but it wasn't overly huge. It wasn't overly tall. It was probably about my height, which is about 6 feet, and but it looked like it was kind of hunched over.
hmm.
Like it
Hmm.
was like it was trying to hide. You know, they didn't want to face the camera, you know, the light. Because I shine a light down through the trees because I heard something, and I'm like, what is that? You know, and I start looking around and I caught this thing. I'm like, what are you? And I'm standing
Be a
there and I'm shining the
juvenile.
light on it and stuff.
Could have been a
And
juvenile. Yeah.
I think it was because there's several been reported on this property, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, so
Jay, I'll
and
tell you about the what the investigation is after the show.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, of course.
fill you in on that. Tex, the first time around though, when you were 16 and you saw the dog man, I mean, what exactly did he look like? Did he
he
look like
was
this?
yeah,
or
exactly,
or
exactly.
did he look more like a Doberman or a wolf?
He was he had more of a the snout wasn't the long wolf like snout. It was the
Yeah.
Mm.
shorter blunt snout.
No,
Uh-huh.
okay.
But not not like boxer, but it was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
it wasn't a pointed snout.
Right.
Um, it didn't have the jowls, but it had that almost a mastiff look to it, I guess.
Oh,
And the ears, they didn't sit real high on the head. They were kind of lower, but they were pinned back.
Huh.
And I'll always compare it to, like, you get when a dog gets upset or a horse gets upset, they pin their ears back.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they that's what it reminded me of. And
Hmm.
people talk all the time about um, amber eyes and red eyes and yellow eyes. And like I said, it was daylight when I saw this thing, and he was real close, but it was no different than your dog's eyes, your just brown eyes.
Right.
Yeah,
You
Brown.
it didn't have a whole lot of gnarly looking teeth. It was just very canine looking teeth. One thing that stood out to me that, I say this all the time, that there's an old wives' tale that if you're looking for a smart dog, get one with black in his mouth. Okay. When this thing snarled at me, it had a black and pink mottled tongue and gums.
No,
That
huh.
stuck out to me. Um, he was mainly like a black, but he was like almost like a salt and pepper. I think he may have had some age to him,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
or it
Yeah.
just could have been his coat. I don't know. Um, the hair wasn't like real bushy and thick on all his. It was more. You could see the like dark charcoal skin underneath. Okay. Um, and the hair was long. It was about, I say it was about it was hanging down off his forearms about like this, but you
Yeah.
could see the
Okay.
skin underneath the hair. And that's what it was like on the majority part of his body until you got to like right behind his ears. And then it was really long, like a mane is what I
Like a
called it when
mane,
I
yeah.
first saw it. And it went down, like down his back of his head, down his neck, and like down his back in a V, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm.
And but I thought he was humped over, but now after talking to people and seeing artist renditions and some of the photos that may or may not be them, it's like they have a hump on their back, like a Bramer or a Grizzly or something like
Right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But um, he had a really, he wasn't like all bulked up, you know.
Yeah.
He had more, much like the Bigfoot that I saw. He had like a basketball player's build.
Right. Like a
Okay.
NBA player.
Yeah.
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 Well, they have seven
Um,
different types that have been reported over the, I guess, centuries. And so that could have been a type one. It sounds like what you're describing. Not overly muscular, not super muscular either.
right.
Because some of them that have been reported are really bulky muscled.
Yeah.
And do you remember, can you recall if there was like a scent that you got from it, a
I
smell?
don't remember smelling anything. I really don't.
Mm.
It happened so fast, and honestly, the state of shock that I was in.
Yeah.
It's just because when he dove over the fence, it was when you describe it, it sounds like a whole long thought process, but it took that long to register. I've got a choice. I can follow him like I was going to into the tall grass, or I can take the road, and go the long way home. And I chose to stick on the road. I didn't have any ammo, and all I had was a 410. But
Right.
so I figured, well, I got a 3 foot club. Maybe I'll get a swing at him if he comes at me. I mean, that was my thought. And
Yeah.
um, but the whole walk, because I had to walk up this road that bordered our place. Our place was on the left, and you walk up to where the road tees, and then you walk across the front of our place. Well, our driveway was on the other side, so you had to like make a big U, right?
Mm.
And really, the whole walk, the whole trip is pretty much a blur, except for I remember turning the first corner, and that's when I had that's when I remembered thinking in my head, well, I might get a swing at him, and that's about it. Um, and I really don't remember a whole lot until I walked in the house. Um, walked in the house, walked in the back door. We lived in a trailer. I walked in the back door, and I know this is kind of funny, but my mom had a rule: no guns in the kitchen, right?
Mm.
I mean, if that ain't country, I'll kiss your ass, right? But um, I walked down the hallway and I pretty much just collapsed into a kitchen chair and I set my gun on the kitchen table.
Oh,
And she was in the kitchen. And I don't remember what she was doing, but I remember her turning around and I think she was fixing to scold me, or ask me if I'd lost my mind. And when she saw me, she says, "What? You're white as a ghost. What's wrong with you?" And I remember trying to tell her, and I physically could not speak. Well,
Yeah.
my sister lived on the same property that we did, like, 40 yards away. And she called my sister kind of in a panic. Hey, there's something wrong with your brother. Get over here. So my sister came over, and between her and my mother, it took them the better part of an hour to calm me down enough where I could tell them what had happened, you
Right.
know. And they didn't call me a liar. They didn't, or anything like that. Now they did try to help me rationalize what I saw. Maybe it was this, maybe it was that, and your imagination took over, that type of thing. Um, but they never really balked at it. Because I stuck to my guns for years and years and years.
Mm.
I even had a pet name for this damn thing. I mean, we got to where we, I after I started going back out again, which took me quite a while. Um,
easy.
you know, I my my sister would ask me, we'd be sitting around having coffee or a beer or whatever, and she would ask me, Have you ran into Fred lately?" Uh,
What'd you call it? Bread?
Fred.
Right.
I don't know. I guess that was my way of, I guess, dealing with. I guess I don't know. Maybe my maybe it was my way of trying to make it not as intimidating.
Yeah,
You
make the
Right.
know?
trauma a little bit,
Yeah.
less bothersome for you.
Yeah. I guess so. But it took me better part of a year to get back to where I was going out hunting and stuff again, back where I was.
Oh,
Right.
you had stopped for a while?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I didn't go anywhere, man. It was I got and something I'd never been scared of before in my life. I was scared of the dark.
Oh,
Hmm.
And if I had to go back and forth between our house and my sister's house, if it was night, and we had what a lot of people call a booger light, a street
yeah.
light, and because that was the only light on the place, right? And it was pitch dark out there. But if I had to go back and forth between the two houses and it was dark, it was a dead run. I mean, I was like, I didn't know, and if I had to go to the, God forbid, if I had to go to the barn or if I had to go down and check on the animals or whatever, my dad thought I was crazy because I didn't step out. I didn't step out of the door without his gun, his 12 gauge, loaded for
Yeah.
freaking bear. And he was like, "What are you
Right.
doing? You're just going down to break the ice because you had to go down and break the ice out of the water troughs, that type of thing, and or if they were raising hell, you had to go check on them, make sure nothing was messing with them. So yeah, but it was like that for a long time, and I didn't go anywhere. I quit. If I was alone, I didn't go anywhere. Now I'd go fishing with the family and stuff like that, but um, yeah, I didn't get off of our place, man. It was but eventually I got mad because felt like felt like this. I felt like I was being bullied. I was being
Yeah.
intimidated,
Yeah.
and I got mad, and I'm so I'm not going to let this happen no more, right? So I'm like, okay, I got to get back on the saddle, right? And so I start going. I just, camp out in the backyard, and I camp out in the pasture, and then I kept going a little further and a little further, and finally, I was back to doing what I was, and several months after that, I was going back to this place that I absolutely loved to hunt. This old man, he had, I think it was like 1,200 or 1,600 acres. I can't remember which it was. But part of it he had in hayfield, and part of it was he hadn't touched, and it was real thick. And you had to travel the game trails to go through this stuff, and it would open up into these clearings that was some of them were just big enough to basically lay down in and make a camp, and some of them were big. They had like a footprint of a small house. They were that big, and it's that prairie grass about a foot tall, and then you may have a
Mm-hmm.
scrub oak or something in it. It's fantastic. And I was there was a tree that had fallen on the fence, and I hadn't got with the guy and cut it up yet or anything like that and repaired the fence, and that was kind of the give and take out there, because if you would go to places on their property that they didn't always see, so
Yeah.
you were their kind of eyes and ears, and of course if there was a problem, if you didn't fix it yourself and tell them about it, you helped them fix it. So that was the
Right.
trade-off of them letting you go hunt their property and stuff.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I was just about to go up on this deadfall and jump the fence and go over into this place that I hunted. And then I heard something walking in the brush, and what I thought was somebody walking in the brush.
Mm.
And I stopped and I said, "Hey, who's out there?" And it stopped.
Oh.
And I said, "Hey, if that's anybody out there, say something, right?" And it just kind of like shifted its weight or took a step, you know. Well, I had a set of twins that lived on the other side of this place that I went to school with, and they hunted it as well, and I knew them. And I said, "Look," I said, "David, Doug, if that's one of y'all, let me know." And it just shifted its weight again. And I said, "Look, if that's somebody out there, tell me or I'm going to shoot." Right. By this time, I'm having flashbacks.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
Right.
imagine.
And so I did probably the stupidest thing that I could have done. I popped a round off up in the air.
Oh.
Mm.
And when I did, all hell broke loose. Whatever this thing was, and I never saw it, but whatever the hell this thing was just, it was crashing through the brush and the trees. You could hear the branches breaking and everything. It was coming towards me. I didn't wait.
It was
I
coming
tucked
at you.
tail, turned around, and ran. Right.
Woo.
And it was better than a mile back to the house. I never
Oh.
slowed down. I didn't turn around. If this thing, I always say, if this thing is fixing to snatch me up, I didn't want to know about it. Right.
Oh.
And, but that was my last encounter out there. Now I went after I got to talking to Danielle about this, and she started asking me a lot of questions, and we really started putting a lot of things. A lot of things came to the surface that I didn't even think about.
Mm-hmm.
Like about a year or so before I had the sighting, I had a dog come up missing,
No.
and we found it because we started smelling him, and he was under the house, under the trailer, and of course, Dad's not going to go in there. He's got a young man to go up and do that dirty work, right?
Yeah.
So I had to go into the house and drag him out. And honest to God, guys, it looked like somebody had held this dog up by his front legs and just gutted him.
Yeah.
And my dad, my dad said, well, he probably got into it with a bobcat, crawled up in there and died, and they've been eating on him. You know, and who am I to argue? I mean, I hadn't seen anything at that point. I didn't know anything was, you know, strange or weird that was around. So I just, okay, it sucks, but okay. Um, but when I started talking to Danielle and she asked me we had any animals come up missing in that town, that kind of stuff, and I remembered that, and I'm like, and she's like, he'd probably been in the area for quite a while, because, and I didn't know, back when I was sharing this encounter for the first time, I had no idea that for some odd reason, these things have a tendency to kill animals around the house and throw them underneath a structure for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they do that. I mean, I don't know if they're, you know, this is for messing with me, or they're trying to leave a message for the owners, or I don't know.
Right.
I know these things like messing with you. They get their jollies off on
Yeah.
terrorizing you. It seems that way anyway. I don't think they're evil, like waiting behind every tree to kill you. If that was the case, I wouldn't be sitting here and talking to you today.
Right.
Um, but and there was a few other things. There was a next to the place I hunted. There was some people that owned, or they either owned or rented the place next to the place I hunted. Well, they had horses, and they didn't live there, but they would come out and ride their horses on the weekends. They lived in the city, whatever. Well, one day all the horses were gone. They just gone. And being a nosy ass kid, I go poking around the property, right? And I find what's left of a horse.
Mm.
And the skeleton, it still had some hide on the skeleton, but it'd been out there a while. But it wasn't scattered at all, you
Right.
know. And normally, you get an animal like that dies, predators are going to have their way with it, because
Absolutely.
we had everything you could shake a stick at out there. We had
Yeah.
coyotes and coons and possum and everything. And then of course you got the dogs that roam around everybody's place. But and then we have the occasional big cat that comes to the area. But it wasn't scattered. And I thought that was odd. But at that time, I just thought it was cool to grab the skull and put it in Mom's rock garden. I didn't think nothing about it, right? Um, but she said that may have been a kill site because nothing had messed with it. And I thought,
Wow.
Well, it's funny. It's funny, Tex, because like over the years, interviewing people and all the info I found is that once a dog man kills its prey, everything else just stays away from it, except for bugs. Bugs usually go around it, but animals, coyotes, wolves, everything else just stays away from it.
Yeah.
Same
So
case with Sasquatch kills too.
Yeah.
yeah, for
You
some
know,
reason they
we,
just know.
you know, doing the research out in the field, of course, you try different stuff,
Mm.
and see if you can, bring them in or get them closer, whatever. And we were trying to, you know, accidentally leave food out in the camp, type thing. And what was odd was it's not like the we had Bigfoot come in and raid whatever food we had left out, and this was very
Right.
aromatic food. I mean, it was what we had for supper,
Yeah.
and but it didn't get messed with at all by anything.
Wow.
You had flies on it. That was it. Nothing else touched this. And it's nothing to have, coons and possums and armadillos come up in your camp. It's nothing for that to happen. But nothing touched this stuff. And I'm like, that's weird. You know, I don't know if what we theorize is we there were some critters in the area, be it dogman or Bigfoot, whatever. But yeah, nothing came up and messed with that stuff. Nothing at all.
Wow.
And that
Wow.
to me is more telling than having it rummaged through. I
Sure.
think.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Tex, you had your Dogman encounter at 16 and then another one after that. How about your first Bigfoot encounter?
That was the sighting in the wheat field. That was the sighting in the wheat, and it was funny because um I don't know. My family's from Texarkana, East Texas, right?
Yeah.
Um, my uncle actually owned property in Falk, so
Okay.
we grew up hearing about the Falk monster and all that kind of stuff, and before it was even a thing, right? And so we were aware of it, um, but I never really gave it much thought. Over the years, I never really did. I never did. And I didn't worry about running into a Bigfoot when I was out hunting or fishing or anything like that. I just, you'd make being kids, you'd make the occasional joke, or whatever. But I never worried about it. But anyway, when I saw this thing, and I was on the Red River in Oklahoma when I saw my first Bigfoot. And like I said, it was 8:30 in the morning. And when I saw this thing, this critter pop up out of this wheat field and run off, my exact words were, "I'll be damned. There goes one right there." But we went we and he was like, "What?" He's like, "You're like the third or whatever person that's seen that thing, and I haven't seen him yet." But we went ahead and walked down in the bottoms, and we took a left, which would, cross his path that he was headed on.
Yeah.
We started walking down through the bottoms, and we would hear something on the ridge above us on our left, and we we would hear something walking, and then we'd hear wood knocks or mouth pops, whatever they're doing. I think they probably do both.
Hmm.
Um, and then we would walk another 100 or so yards, and we would hear it again. So what we theorized what was going on was he was pushing a group in front of us, so we wouldn't walk
Oh,
Yeah.
up. You know, um, but yeah, after I started, I started going out there by myself and stuff. I made a few trips out there with him. Um, but he did not like going out there at night, and he didn't like going to the cemetery, and I love going to the cemetery up there, because I like the paranormal side of things also.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's some fantastic pictures that have came out of that cemetery of what appears to be a Bigfoot, and um, years before I started going up there, and I can't remember. I can't remember who was it. Dotson. I can't remember who took the picture, but it was rumored that those critters were up there. So I went up there, and I've had since I've been doing this, going out there and stuff and researching that area. I've had numerous people have their first sighting with me out there.
Hmm.
So I've had two daylight sightings, and let's see, one, two, three, four, five, five nighttime sightings and multiple freaking encounters, multiple
Wow.
encounters.
Wow.
Um, And we pulled some of the, as Nick knows, and we're going to look at it here in a minute, but um, probably the best physical evidence that's been pulled out of the field in a long, long time.
Unbelievable physical
Yeah.
evidence, Jay. Wait till you see this. Unbelievable. Oh, you can tell it's not not human.
No, it's not. Um, I don't know what it is. I don't pretend to. I'm not going to say, oh well, it was a Bigfoot. Do I believe I know what it was? Absolutely, but I can't say for
Sure.
sure because it's circumstantial evidence, and
Right.
and a lot of people they don't understand the difference between
Nope.
circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence is okay. I found a handprint. I found a footprint. It's circumstantial because what you didn't see whatever it was make that handprint.
Yeah,
You
you
didn't
didn't
see
know
what it
who
Right.
was
was
to make
right
that
there.
footprint. So it's circumstantial.
Yeah.
But what's always got me, and and when I'm talking to a skeptic or talking to somebody that has, you know, not necessarily a skeptic, but I'm talking to them about what I do. They find out what I do, and they want to know all about it. And I said, well, when they start talking to you, well, how come we don't have any proof? We've got proof. I could convict Bigfoot in the court of law, you
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah.
but they won't recognize him. For what reason? Probably the biggest part of it is economics. It's money.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, but I do think we're on the road of. I think we're in the middle of source disclosure. I think we're on the cusp of it.
Yep.
Um, and because, and I make this comparison quite a lot. If you look at, because the government finally came off of it and said, okay, UFOs exist. We're not going to say aliens are out there, but UFOs exist. And then they'll crawfish, and then they'll say yeah, and then they'll crawfish, and then they'll say yeah. But if you use say Roswell as a measuring stick as a starting point, okay, that's what 70, 80, almost 80 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and look how it was presented to us. That phenomenon was presented to us over the years, and
Yep.
how it gradually they intertwined it into um, our lives. Because when they first came out and said about the Tic Tac video, that type of thing, I was expecting the lid to blow off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the circles that we run in. Okay,
Right. Right.
barely a peep, barely a freaking peep.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, "Oh yeah, well we knew." And I think what's going on, and if you like I said, if you use Roswell as a starting point, okay, for UFOs, and then we're at the point we are now, okay, where they've come off of it and they said, okay, yeah, they're out there. Look at use 1967 as a starting point with Sasquatch,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and look at the way it's been fed to us. It's mirroring what they did with aliens and UFOs.
It is. Yeah. I never thought about that, but you're right. Absolutely right.
So I think they're waiting for us till they think we'll get the same reaction we did when they came off the UFOs. Go, okay, yeah, we knew Bigfoot was out there, so what?
Yeah.
That way they don't have to shut down, national forests. They don't have to shut down
Right.
logging
Yep.
companies. Don't have to do any of this. But what worries me most about disclosure is not resetting everybody's um, reality clocks because it's going to do that. One, I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait to tell a lot of people, I told you so. Okay,
Yep. Me
I'm
too,
waiting
buddy.
on that
Me
one
too.
because I've flat out been called a liar.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, and I've had my credibility, my professional credibility, shot to hell over this stuff. You know, um, so I mean, I've had people that have known me for 15, 20 years and do a complete 180 on how they feel, you
Yeah.
know. So, it's there's a lot of vindication that's going to happen with me personally, and a lot of other people.
Hmm.
But what worries me is these freaking yahoos that are going to want to put a head on the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my main concern right there.
Yep.
What I don't care if you go out, if I don't care if you go out there and get yourself killed. Okay, if you go out there trying to hunt one of these things and put a head on the wall, you get what you get. It ain't
Yep.
no different than hunting any other apex predator. If it gets you first, hey, say la
That's
vie,
right.
right? So that's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about what it's going to do to the species and how they interact with us. That's what I'm
Right.
worried about. Because
Sure.
right now they're just curious. They just watch us for the most part.
Yep.
You
Right.
know, we see them. I think we see them as far as Bigfoot goes. I think we see them for one or two reasons. They want us to, or
Hmm.
they screw up. You
Yep.
know, and they do screw up. As good as they are, they screw up.
They
You
do.
know,
Yeah.
but it's just like the one that popped up out of the wheat field. I guarantee you. I think maybe not all of them, but I think most of them have the mindset of if I can't see you, you can't see me.
Well, they do have a way of cloaking themselves, and you're probably right there, Tex, because they probably felt like, oh, well, I'm cloaked, he can't really see me, but maybe the light hit it in such a way that it exposed itself to you. And
Or
surprise,
maybe it didn't bother cloaking because he thought nobody was
yeah,
watching.
that's
I
No
don't
one
another,
was
know.
that's
watching them.
another, that's
Yeah.
another thought. Yeah,
Yep.
Like I said, they screw up, you know.
Yep. It's like when they're doing their mimics, something they get it just about perfect, but there's always a little bit in there that they screw up just a little bit.
You know, and I've got a theory about that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times when we hear the things that sound just a bit off, you
Hmm.
know, a lot of people, that you hear a lot of talk about the mentally challenged owl,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
that type of thing. Um, I think that may be most of it. I'm not going to say all of it because, like I
Hmm.
said, they screw up, right? And like you said, Jay.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, I think that may be the juveniles honing their craft
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
because I think most of these adults that are really good at this, unless you've got a spectrometer on it, you're not going to know.
They
mhm,
can fool you. Yeah, they'll fool you. Yeah.
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 Unless,
No, that's
unless you can
I
see the
never.
frequencies, I don't think you're going to know for the most part. But
Yeah.
yeah, every once in a while, I mean, our voices crack when we talk. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's happening right now. Well, it's been happening for about 2 years, in that ongoing investigation that you and I are, we're knowledgeable of,
yeah,
down there in Texas. Well, for me down there, and I believe I told that the individual, whose property that the juvenile dogmen have been on, I told him that most likely juveniles, because they're
yeah,
making they're making juvenile mistakes. Let's put it that way.
absolutely.
If it was an adult, I don't think our friend or mutual acquaintance there would have seen him. But the juveniles are testing the waters, seeing what they can do, what they can get away with, what they can't.
Yeah,
I mean, some of that stuff is just phenomenal that's happened down there. I don't know if you're aware of the one time in a barn over there that he found the saliva, from it going up the stairs, and it's a ladder actually.
yeah,
Found saliva. I mean, it's like they just that's a rookie mistake,
yeah.
but they won't
You
be
know,
doing that for too long.
and I think it's weird if you think about the whole barn and going up that ladder or stairs, whatever you want to call it, into a secluded place where it looks like something had bedded down.
Yeah,
You've got saliva on it. That may have been one that was in heat.
Could have been. Yeah.
I mean, there may have been a female laid up in there, or either that or the male was making a place,
Yep.
for them to hook up. But the male may have been just real excited and just, slobbered. I mean, that
yeah.
happens. Look
Sure.
what a bull does. They'll slobber all over the freaking
All
place,
over.
Oh
Yep.
you know?
God.
So that may be what that was. And if it was a young one, well, if, like an adolescent, hormones got the best of him,
Oh yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But
I'm thinking in that barn. You're right. We were throwing around the possibility it could have been a young male and a young female.
yeah.
And although I don't understand why they had to go into a barn. I mean, you got all that woodland over there.
Well, they don't want it to roll in the hay.
Yeah, that's it. Most likely comfort
Yeah.
for their
But
comfort only.
that place, man, I'll say that I can say this about the place. It's 2,000 acres of private gated land that
Yeah.
nobody, the big part of it, nobody lives on. It's just gas wells and old structures. And it's a phenomenal place because it ain't just Dogman out there. I'll tell you that much. There's a lot of stuff going on out there, a lot. I had my first crawler experience not too long ago, and God, I don't know what them critters are, but they're creepy looking. I'll tell you that.
Jay,
No,
isn't that what Gary had a problem with? A crawler?
no, it was
Or was it a
Mike
rake?
Collin. It was Mike Colantonio that we interviewed, Long Island Bigfoot, and he had the experience with the crawler, and the Sasquatch came out and screamed, and the crawler turned around and took off.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that area that's under investigation down there right now, Texas, is something. You probably got more going on there, in all honesty, than Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff going on.
2,000 acre. I mean, it's phenomenal. All the things that that individual has reported to me over the years. So it's
Yeah,
just
Yeah.
been going
yeah.
on and on and on. And I mean, here you came across a crawler over there on top of everything else. And
Yeah.
Jay, when you finally come down here, we're going to take a road trip there, and we'll meet up with Tex
Absolutely.
and a couple of the other guys there, and go see what we could see out there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely.
We're fixing to, it's really cool because there's a clear water, I think it's spring fed. I don't see how it can't be. Creek that runs through the property.
Right.
Mm.
And that whole basin is nothing but fossils. You
Oh
can't
wow.
walk without stepping on a fossil.
Hmm.
And I've got an ammonite fossil that I dug out that's this big around and it's complete.
Wow.
And I mean, we found ammonites just, I mean, laying all over the place, man. Um, Fossilized oysters, snails, just a lot. We're fixing to do something, and I'm really stoked about this.
Hmm.
There's some deep places or deeper places in this, holes in this creek. And like I said, the water's crystal clear.
Right.
And we're fixing to do an underwater fossil hunt,
Oh
Yeah.
you know.
cool.
Oh, that should be
Cool.
phenomenal. Are you guys going to scuba down and?
Yeah, well, I don't it's we're going to use tanks, we're going to use scuba, but luckily it's so shallow that we don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. Um, but the one place I'm really excited about, there's two places I'm really excited about getting, and you can see if when you're looking above it, you can see the shelves and it goes back underneath. I want to find out, how deep that goes back underneath. I'm not going to do any
Yeah.
crazy cave diving. I ain't gonna you know, get down there and can't get out. 'Cause I don't have the gear and I don't have the experience of cave diving. I've been
Yeah.
diving since I was 14 years old, and I did it professionally for a while, but I've never done any cave diving. I've dove in structures. I dove
Yeah.
inside a dam, but it's just we don't have the equipment, to do it
Mm.
properly and do it safely. So,
Yeah, cave
but
diving can be dangerous because you can get
oh,
Very,
absolutely,
very.
caught in
absolutely,
a super hard undertow. You can have things come down on you, and then you're trapped
yep,
there. I mean, you got to really have a bunch of people there. Your top
yeah.
men and a lot of people there in order to do something like that because it can be
But
very
I've
dangerous.
got luckily the person that's going to be with me has a lot of experience doing this. He filmed He did underwater camera work for Nat Geo, Discovery, that type of thing.
Right.
And and he's done cave diving and deep water diving and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, and like I said, these things are maybe 10 feet deep. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's not no big deal. But as long as we don't do nothing crazy, we'll be okay. But I'm really excited about it because I don't know, you know, the people that we know, hasn't brought that aspect into doing a cryptid investigation on a place.
Right.
Right.
You know, I mean, what's under there? We may find there's no telling what kind of tracks or fossilized tracks or skeletons. We don't know.
You know.
Can't
Yeah.
imagine. I mean, you might find something that's 15, 30,000 years old for that matter.
May
Because
very possible.
that is something in that area.
Yeah,
Uh,
it really
Hey,
is.
like I said, Jay, I'll tell you after the show about it because we got to keep the investigation quiet for now. We do
Yeah,
not want a lot of people going over there.
yeah,
Yeah. I
Uh,
think I know who you're talking about anyway.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, I've been doing quite a bit of, well, besides cryptid investigations and research, a lot of research on Area 51. And like I've
yeah.
mentioned in other shows, I think I even mentioned on your show, Tex, scientists have said there's 11 different dimensions. And Area 51, there, there's a lot of evidence coming out that that might be a portal to another dimension, Area 51. Because look what we're getting out of those areas. We're getting the what is the F-22 Raptor,
Yeah.
the super jet, right? The F-35. I mean, how these things can go at such, supersonic speeds that dwarf what they were going at 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. And they're thinking that that's a possibility. Area 51 just might be sitting right on top of a portal, to another dimension. Uh,
Can't rule that out.
they're not letting that out.
No.
They're
No.
not letting that info out. And yeah, I mean, it was amazing. What was it, like 2 years ago, that they had the commission on the alien commission that came out there and said, yeah, yeah, there are UFOs out there. We're admitting it. We have info. Yes, we're admitting it. We've been hiding it. We've been keeping it back for the public safety. Yeah,
Right.
okay. I remember a time where I had sent in using the Public Information Act, and I got 300 pages back, and most of it was redacted.
Of
I mean,
Of
course.
course.
I mean,
Yeah.
why? What am I going to do with 300 pages of paper that have a lot of black ink on it?
Yeah.
Blotches all over it. They really didn't want to let you, read anything. But I
No.
guess there is coming a day. There is coming a day. I mean, I can't imagine what people are gonna do and say, "Oh, wait a minute, that park that I like to go to." That 5,000 acre park, they've got Sasquatch there. Do I really want to go there? Or there's
Yeah.
Dogman there, or land land between the lakes in Tennessee. Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
there's Dogman still there, and there's Sasquatch. Oh okay,
I don't know that we'll ever see disclosure on Dogman.
yeah,
Yeah. That's debate.
that's pretty terrifying. I'll tell you. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of stories that we hear on Sasquatch. Actually, there was a missing child that actually returned it, took care of it for a while.
yeah,
There's a couple of stories about missing kids out there and they've been returned. And the kids were saying, oh, yeah, the bear took care of me. A bear did
yeah,
Yeah.
not take care of you.
Bear.
I'm sorry. If it was a brown bear, you would be a little juicy morsel snack.
yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely.
it doesn't care that you're a little human. It's going to
Nope.
eat you. And you probably smell better though, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be horrific, if they came out and said, "Yeah, there is Dog Man out there." Holy crow!
Yeah.
The thing is an apex predator, period, and that's all.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't care what other people say. Every report, every person that I've spoken to in person, the thing is a predator. It's
Yeah.
not a little fluffy, doll with hair on it, like people like to talk about, Bigfoot, which probably just wants to stay on its own, most of them anyway.
Yeah.
Except for the Gugway. They're the face eaters and they're pretty bad.
Yeah, they
Uh,
they're ornery.
Very.
I have a cousin-in-law through marriage to my cousin, who's a First Nation Indian, and in Canada, and he was telling me about what he knows of them and what his father and his grandfather have passed down through the ages. And Gugway is not something they want to come across, and evidently they have a lot of them in Eastern Canada. So
Yeah,
Hmm.
Eastern Canada and the Northeast U.S., the border area there.
do you
Yeah,
get any reports where you are, Jay? And I mean, you're all the way up there in Appalachian area.
never had a report on a Gugway. No,
Mm.
no. But I have talked to my relatives on the reservation about them,
Mm.
and they swear up and down they are around, but they
Uh,
don't go into much detail. Even with me being related to them, they don't go into much detail.
You
that's a
know,
pit.
I know a lot of people, especially First Nations people, they don't want to talk about them because they believe if you talk about them, they'll come around.
Conjure them up. Yeah,
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 Well, that's what the Native
absolutely.
American people, Indians, they say,
yeah,
nope, not going to talk about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Same
Skinwalker
thing with
up.
skinwalkers.
Skinwalker,
Same with
close their ears.
skinwalkers.
They
Yeah.
run. They walk away. They don't want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yep.
unless you're one of them, and I don't even think if you are one of them today. I guess it's a superstition or a custom of theirs that you just don't mention it. Otherwise, it will come.
Yeah.
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 And here
I
I
mean,
am walking around, Skinwalker, Skinwalker.
yeah.
Anybody know what Skinwalker? They're like, shh, shh, stop, go away, white guy. It's like, no, we don't want to talk about that. You're just gonna jinx us. Ah, I mean, it's not for this show, but I spoke to one gentleman who's a Native American down in Arizona, and it was bad. It was bad what happened to this was one lady who was pregnant, and the skinwalker got her. So I mean, it's just something that they believe in heavily, and it's not a place they want to go to. But
Can't blame them.
Me
mm-mm.
neither. Me neither.
Y'all want to take a look at this handprint?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to ask if you'd be able to
absolutely.
throw it up.
Let's see what we can do here.
Okay. I think at the bottom there, you got to hit share. There's a green box with an arrow. There you
There you
go.
go.
Look at
Wow.
that. Now look at that. Look how
Wow.
far away the thumb is.
Yeah.
Look at the dermal ridges on that
Look
thing.
at that.
Jay, you ever
That
see that? The thumb is,
did,
I mean, I can't make my hand go that far.
no, hell no. That's impressive.
Look at the dermal ridges on that thing.
Look at the dermal ridges. Wow.
And you can see that at the tip, the nail is bent over the front
Yep.
of the finger.
Yep.
Now, you want to give us a blow by blow what this is all about and how you came upon it?
Yeah, it's an interesting little story. We were out. We were out, and I was up in the cemetery. This is my truck, by the way. Um, the I was doing a solo investigation, and up in the, and I was doing a live show actually in the cemetery, and my safety team was parked down on the hill. The cemetery sits about 100 yards up on a hill and back in the woods. And I was up there. Well, like I said, they were parked down here, down in the bottom where we parked. And my phone went dead, and they hightailed it up there to make sure I was okay. Well, when they did, they left everything in the truck. They left the truck unlocked, the keys in the truck.
Mm.
There was thousands of dollars worth of electronics in the truck. There was a bear proof Yeti cooler in the back of the truck. The tailgate was up. Okay. So they come up, we hook up, and it was about 30-minute window or so. And when we came back down, we were walking around the trucks and just kind of, him hawing, and talking about stuff. And I believe it was Ranger's son that noticed the first one. It may have been a Ranger, but it was like, the handprints got noticed. Now we were able to identify three separate sets of prints, okay, handprints. So there wasn't just one individual. There was three that we know of.
Right.
Now these handprints were. This is the edge of the bed of my truck, okay. So
Okay.
it's just a stock 4-wheel drive Dodge, okay. It's not jacked up or anything like that. Um, all the handprints were at this level. Okay. They were, and they were all looked like they're reaching up. So whatever these things were, they were small. Okay.
Small. Yeah.
Or they were maybe walking on all fours.
Could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but even at that point, I don't think they were that big because these handprints, every one of them, were smaller than anybody's on the crew.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And like Nick was talking, the placement of the thumb versus the forefinger,
Yeah.
the handprint,
Unbelievable.
the handprint itself is smaller than my hands by quite a bit, but I can't replicate the spread between the
No
forefinger and the
way.
thumb. It's like the thumb is located down here.
Down
Yeah.
here. Yeah. There's no way.
Yeah.
So once
Yeah.
again, this is probably a
Right.
juvenile
That's what we think.
Sasquatch.
That's what we think.
I mean,
Um,
isn't that amazing, Jay? I mean,
Yeah. It's awesome.
when he
It's just
zooms in
and
on that, I
incredible.
mean, you could see it's like, wow.
this
Incredible.
is, of course, this is the coup de grace of the handprints, right?
Probably, yeah.
So, but this is what this is. It's what we believe and what it looks like is a forearm and a hand.
Right. Yeah, that's where the
Yep.
hair is.
Yep.
Because I mean, this looks like a freaking paintbrush.
It does.
Did this,
Unbelievable.
and you can see. Look at the texture of the skin.
Yeah.
You can see the
That's
little goosebumps and where the hair starts and everything.
that's
And
incredible.
Tex,
like
how high up off the ground is that?
like I said, it's a stock 4-wheel drive Dodge truck. That's the edge, the top of the bed of the truck where the hand is. Right up here at top, that's the edge of the bed of the truck.
Top of the bed. So you're figuring 4.5,
4
5
feet,
feet.
4 feet maybe, shoulder height.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, now, another interesting thing is when we came back down, the tailgate was to his truck. The cooler was in the bed of his truck, and the tailgate was up when they left. When we came back down, the tailgate was down, and the
No.
cooler had been opened, and it was latched. It was latched shut. It had been opened and closed, but it hadn't been relatched. And there was water dripped over the water and ice dripped over the tailgate. There was still ice that hadn't melted. So this took place real fast.
Yeah.
And I believe this took place in May, if I'm not mistaken. In tech, right, well, on the border of Texas and Oklahoma. So it was warm, you know, but if I remember, man, I could have swore this was in May. I'm pretty sure. I had to check that. But anyway, there was still ice sitting on the tailgate, where something apparently had scooped his hand in and got a drink of water out of the cooler and dropped ice and dribbled water over the tailgate. Now on the top of his cab, there was two handprints on the top back side of his cab, and they were just like this, okay, right on the edge. And there was water drip down between them, like when if I was to scoop my hands up and get a drink, and I
Yep.
had water in my beard, and then I did this, and the water
Yep.
dripped out of my beard right between my handprints. That's what it looked like it did. So
Okay.
like this thing was watching them run up the hill to get me, you know. So yeah, I mean, we were like kids at a candy store, I
Oh
mean,
man.
we were so excited. And we found months later at another campsite about 4 miles from this one actually. Um, there were several of us in camp, and we were sitting around a campfire and we were just BSing. And one of the guys had his SUV parked next to the gully, you know, about 20, 30 feet away from, about 30, I guess, about 30 feet away from the campfire. And we were going behind his, around the other side of his SUV and taking a leak. Everybody was, right? So let me see if I can find that picture. Um, um, that was real paranormal, wasn't it? um, I don't know if I can find, I don't know if I've got that one ready to pull up or not. Um, but the, he went around, the side of his vehicle to take a leak. And he says, "Which one of you sorry SOBs put your greasy paw on top of my on my SUV on my truck?" And we're like, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Y'all come over and check this out." There was a handprint right at the top of his SUV, and it was bigger than anybody's there. And I got pretty good sized paws. I wear an 18 ring. Okay.
Oh wow.
This
Damn.
so this was a huge handprint, and it was very, very oily, right?
Yep.
So whatever this thing was standing there looking over the top of his SUV, watching us at the campfire. Well, not only that, you could see where we had been peeing, our little pee marks, covering our pee marks up for the most part was a pee spot about 2.5 foot in diameter. Looked like a freaking Clydesdale had walked up and just cut loose. So whatever this thing was, walked up, put his hand on top of, like standing at the urinal, put his hand on the wall,
Yeah.
and just and covered our stuff up, you know.
Yeah.
But
He's
yeah,
probably saying, "You guys are trying to mark my territory here. I'll mark over
I
you."
think that's exactly what that was.
He got a little upset about that one, huh?
Yeah. Now the first question
Absolutely.
I get asked when I tell that is, "Did you get a sample?" There was no sense in doing it. No sense, because we had already been peeing right there.
Yeah.
The first thing they're going to tell you if you run DNA is it's contaminated anyway.
Cross
Well, this
contamination.
was truly contaminated. There's no reason to bother getting a sample. What
Yeah.
we did was we pulled the handprint with clear masking tape. I mean, with clear packing tape
Yeah.
off of the truck. It's in the freezer of one of the guys on the team, and we're in talks with somebody that's going to get DNA done on it.
Nice. Very
So,
nice.
yeah, and we're very excited about that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, you want to have another? I've had this looked at I've had it looked at by law enforcement fingerprint experts, wildlife experts, and I get the same answer from every one of them, that they can't tell me what this is, but they can tell me it's not human,
Yeah.
because human fingerprints without fail
No,
swirl.
that's right.
Primates go straight across, but the hand itself, and you can see some palm prints here,
Oh yeah.
and those are that's ridges from the palm.
Yeah.
Um, the the thing about it is, the way the hand is put together physically isn't ape, and it isn't human.
Right.
Right.
You know, so we don't know what it is. The closest we tried to match it up with, a lot of different, handprints, from great apes and from humans, and the closest thing, wasn't exact, but the closest thing we came up with was gorilla.
Mm.
But
But still, the ridges on there are nothing human or
They're
ape
not human. They're
or
not
ape
human.
for that matter.
Uh,
And the reason I also say that's a juvenile is not only because of the size, but when you look at it, the ridges and everything are still sharp. They're
yeah,
very
Very,
sharp. Now,
very.
if it's an adult, the calluses and everything would be
right.
worn, and you
Yeah.
might even see callus spots. But that's
Right.
not very much used hands. Not
No.
aged hands at all. And that lower right hand corner there, the brush marks from the forearms, that's
Yeah.
phenomenal too.
It is.
Ah,
It's incredible.
look at that.
I think it's some of the best evidence come out of the field in a lot of years.
Oh,
I
that
really do.
definitely is.
Yeah, that's some good stuff.
Tex, it is. It really is. That is impressive
And
stuff.
I don't like tooting my own horn, but that's just hard to deny right there.
Yeah, that's excellent.
I mean, I like the way they came after you to say, "Hey, we're here.
Yeah.
We're watching
Yeah.
you."
Yeah.
Yep.
Woo. Tex, there's nothing else that you can locate on that computer, is there? Any other photos?
Well, let me poke around here and see what I let's see here and get that off there.
I mean, Jay, we have a few minutes left, so maybe he can
Yeah.
find that one. That would be great.
Yeah, we're good.
What do you think about that, Jay? I mean, my
I think it's incredible.
unbelievable. Mm.
Incredible.
I
You do
may
them
be able to find the P spot I was telling y'all about. Let me look through here. Oh, you know what? Here's that picture that I was talking about that was taken by that guy in the cemetery. That's
Mhm.
um that's a suspected Sasquatch.
Hmm.
Take a look at that one real quick. If I can figure out what I'm doing here. Come on now. Where'd y'all go? There we go. I found it.
Oh yeah, okay. I see something. There's something there. That's for sure.
This was taken at the back of the cemetery I was telling y'all about in my
Mhm.
research area.
Okay.
Um, to me, it looks like he's laying down,
Yeah.
um, and the top of his head is at the third strand of that barbed wire. So you're
Yeah.
talking, 3 feet up, and he's
Right.
laying down in a prone position.
Right.
So, but
Yeah,
I think it's a pretty incredible photo. I wish
you
I'd have
can see
taken it,
him.
but I did not.
You can see him there. That's for sure.
Of course, you can blow it up, but I mean, you can. I think you can make out some facial stuff, and
You
looks
can
like he's
and,
Looks
got his
like
arm stretched out
looks
and
like that's an
yeah.
arm over there,
guy
Yeah.
where
grabbing the
your arrow
fence.
is. And
Yeah,
to me, it looks like it's sitting on its butt. No? What do you think?
I think it's in a prone. I think it's on its belly.
On its belly? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's got this arm here
There's an arm
setting up.
there, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like on its elbow, and this one's reaching out towards the fence,
Hmm.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
and he's kind of raised up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's doing
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
plank.
Right.
So that's what I see. I mean, I don't,
I mean,
but
I don't think you have any gorilla in that area.
no,
And
we have
No.
tigers. We have tigers.
no bears. No, I mean,
Yeah, we had local law enforcement. We had the sheriff's office, and we got cornered one night at the bottom of this cemetery where the handprints got on our trucks. I was taking a paranormal group up there, and we pulled up and parked. And next thing we know, we're surrounded. We ain't got out of our trucks yet, and we're surrounded by 5 cop cars. And it was 3 sheriff's deputies and 2 tribal police.
No.
And they were we gingerly got out of our trucks, and they said, "What are y'all doing up here?" And I kind of got a, real grin on my face, and one of the guys, the tribal police, looks at me and goes, "Y'all up here Bigfoot hunting?" I said, I kind of kicked rocks a little bit. I said, "Well, yeah, And I said, we're the Bigfoot guys, and I said that, they're the paranormal group. And I'm going to take them up cemetery. And we ended up having like a 45-minute conversation with the cops down there. And they told us, they asked us if we were armed. And at the time I wasn't. And they said, well, we encourage everybody to carry a sidearm when they come up here. And I'm like, do what? And they said, yeah, we've had reported tiger sightings. And I'm like,
Oh,
wait a minute, back up. This is Oklahoma, you know? And he proceeded to tell me, of course, most everybody's aware of the Tiger King, right?
yes,
It's
yes.
in Oklahoma. Well, his first place was about 40 miles from where I researched, right? Well, when he got sent to the Hooskow and they shut him down, and those other people took over. They moved his outfit to within about 2 miles or less of my research area. Well,
Oh,
when they
wow.
got shut down, there was I think it was 17 big cats that run accounted for, tigers that run accounted for,
Oh, my God.
and they told us that they had reported sightings, and so to beware of
Yeah.
walking around unarmed.
That's some good
And
information from them, I'll tell you, because like
yeah,
Absolutely.
I tell
and
people all the time, Tex, you may not find Sasquatch or Dogman.
yeah,
I mean, they may find you,
yeah,
but a bear might find you,
yeah,
wolves, coyote, and in this case, a tiger or two.
yeah.
I mean, if you've ever seen a tiger at a zoo up close and in person, these things are not small.
No, they are not.
They are
They are not.
Nope.
huge.
I think I may have encountered one years before we got this information. I was going up there. I was going up to the cemetery, and I was by myself, and it's on audio on the channel, and I'm walking up the hill, um, and you hear me say, "Oh, I heard a growl over here. Kind of had a purr to it on my left." And I didn't think nothing about it because I didn't know. I'm thinking, okay, cool, something's over there. So I get up to the entrance of the entrance of the cemetery, and I'm standing there, and I got my little. All I had with me, no kidding, was a pen light, a pocket knife, and a phone with no service at that point.
Oh
And
God.
Oh,
Not even
Lord.
a bottle of water and a Hershey bar. Oh my God.
so I'm looking around with this little bitty pen light, and I catch his eye shine back over my left shoulder in the trees, and it's about I don't know a couple feet off the ground. But what struck me was the eyes were about big around as a silver dollar, and they were about 8 inches apart.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to go through my head what this could be, and the only thing I could come up with, there was two things I could come up with that had eyes this big and that maybe that much spread, and that was either a horse or a cow, or a bull.
Right.
But it was so low to the ground. I'm like, maybe it's a cow laying down. Horses don't lay down that often, but maybe it's a cow, right?
Maybe it was a tiger getting ready to pounce
Mhm.
because it's low to
And
the ground and it's going to spring.
yeah, but I'm also going, well, I hope it's a Bigfoot, and I'm thinking this is really cool. And it starts playing peekaboo with me behind a tree, right? Trying to, and I can barely make out like the silhouette of it, a little bit like not really, I can't really tell what I'm looking at. Okay. But so it starts playing peekaboo, and then I'm geeking out, man. I'm like, this is really cool. And then it stands up, and when you're kneeling or whatever or squatting down, and when you stand up, you kind of take a step forward as you come up.
Right.
Yes.
You know, okay, that's what this thing did. And when it hit about shoulder height, I decided it was time to go.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
Um, now I didn't wait around to see how big this thing was. I just said, well, okay, well, it's probably time to back out because you
Yeah.
can't run down that hill, and I can't run anywhere anyway. But so I just walked back down and nothing happened, you know. But then you fast forward to this information that we get from these cops, and oh yeah, we got tigers. And Jason McLean is convinced that that's what I encountered. He's convinced,
Wow.
and I can't disagree with him. Very well could have been. Very
Could
well
have
could have
been.
been.
Yeah.
And a little tip I want to give the audience and anybody that's going to listen now and in the future: do not run,
Never.
because, like in the beginning of the show, I had my little buddy with me. When I move things fast, that is so attractive. They'll go after it like super fast.
Yeah.
Same with a tiger, same with a mountain lion, a bear, coyote. You run, it's gonna pursue you because it knows, okay, you're the prey. I'm going
Yep.
after you now. So that's just something else for to impart upon people out there when you're out there looking for things. Back away slowly. Keep your
Yep.
eyes on it, back away slowly. Get behind a tree and keep backing away and keeping your eyes on it and get
That's
at it.
right.
Yep. That will trigger it for sure.
Absolutely.
That will trigger the you are prey and I'm going to get you. I mean, I have an old canvas glove that I play glove with my little 8-pound buddy over there, and I'm going to tell you, I move it fast, bam, jumps right on it, jumps right on it. So just be careful when you guys are out there. Jay,
Uh,
I guess we're out of time at this point.
We are out of time, unfortunately.
Oh wow, I don't want it to stop filming. Tex, this was great. We may
This
have
was
to have you
awesome,
back
Tex.
for a part two. Man,
well, anytime y'all want, man, I'm down.
all
So
Awesome.
right.
Awesome. I'd love to have
I'll
you
be
back
happy to
on,
come
man.
on anytime you want.
Well, listen,
Awesome.
stay on. Jay's going to close the show for us, and
All right.
we're going to say goodnight, but stay on.
Yeah, everyone, thank you for tuning in. And we'll be back next week with another awesome guest. And everyone, God bless. Be good to each other. And everyone, have a good night.
Good night
Good
now.
night, guys.
Good night.